So about the NSAIDs, we continue about the therapeutic actions and what were the mechanisms of these therapeutic actions of NSAIDs. We talked before about um, anti-inflammatory mechanism of action. This anti-inflammatory action we talked before, that was about the inhibition of COX enzyme that the NSAID does. Now we want to talk about the, first of all, let's say what are the therapeutic actions of NSAIDs. We have the anti-inflammatory action, that this anti-inflammatory action is the whole mechanism, but we can branch it some others, like analgesic means suppressing the pain, or antipyretic suppressing the fever. We talked before about these. Now we want to talk about these two guys. Let's first say about the antipyretic action that's suppressing the fever. First of all, I want to look at the mechanism of fever. What does, or what conditions cause fever to our body? When your body is contact with some conditions like the infections, like the inflammations, when you have some bacteria, when you have some viruses, parasites, or others, when you have an infection, when you have an inflammation, it can be caused by the infection of other inflammatory diseases or conditions, or you can have some hypersensitivity reactions, and at last the malignancy. When a body comes to the malignancy, these guys, infections, inflammation, hypersensitivity, and malignancy, can stimulate some immune molecules called cytokines. Cytokines have a bunch of rules in the body about the immune system, but here cytokines, one of the actions that the cytokines do is stimulating some prostaglandin molecules. They can stimulate some prostaglandin molecules. In this case, about the fever, we have prostaglandin E2. When the cytokines rises, that was caused by some conditions like infection and others, cytokines can stimulate the prostaglandin E2 synthesis. Prostaglandin E2 then can elevate the body set point. You know that the body temperature regulates by the body set point. So the prostaglandin E2 can stimulate, or can elevate, the body set point. With this elevation of the body set point, we have fever. Now, previously about the NSAID that we talked about, the mechanism, we said that NSAIDs, these molecules, NSAIDs, can inhibit enzyme called COX. This COX enzyme is responsible for producing prostaglandins, these prostaglandins. So when you inhibit the COX enzyme with NSAIDs, obviously you're inhibiting the prostaglandin E2 synthesis. When you have inhibition of prostaglandin E2 synthesis, now you have inhibition of prostaglandin E2 synthesis. So you can inhibit the process of making fever. So this is the mechanism that the NSAID can cause antipyretic action or anti-fever.